Hey everyone, it's On the CUSP with Chad, coming to you from the Great White North. That's Chad's Unscheduled Seminars on POWSCHE. Your host, otherwise known as the Point Two Soul Giga Chad, recording from the Council of Chad's HQ. And we got Nick. He's the Jamie to my Rogan. He's been up for days, fueled by nothing but raw conviction for POWSCHE to succeed, editing On the CUSP content for you holders out there. So, starting with this episode, our podcast will slowly start to dive in and tackle all the many things that is crucial for a coin to go the distance. Its legs. And it is far more complex than just having a strong community. So I felt it was necessary that a good chunk of this podcast covered, current events, specifically speaking, the AMA that happened, as well as what followed it. So that'll take up the majority of this podcast, but again, little by little, I will be diving into exactly what gives a coin legs, and we're going to kind of start near the beginning of POWSCHE and kind of be chronological in terms of how I dive into this. And I will continue to cover this in every subsequent podcast, unless it's like a special one like the testimonial retellings. But in every subsequent podcast following this, I will be touching on what gives a coin legs for as many podcast episodes it takes to fully get through them all. So just a quick recap on what happened today. It's April 22nd, 2024. Our fearless leader, the Dev, along with Dio, who's been here from the beginning and really stepped up and become part of that major leadership that we have here in POWSCHE. So both of them had an interview, an AMA, Ask Me Anything, with one of the space's biggest crypto influencers, Caesar's Calls. So the interview was conducted by one of Caesar's, higher on the totem pole men, Maurice. The guy's a great speaker. I got to hand it to him. He had great questions, knew how to carry the flow of an interview well. He did a really good job. I got to commend him on that. Now, I think it's pretty clear Caesar isn't the biggest in terms of followers or reach, but the biggest, hands down, in my opinion, in terms of focusing on what's important to his own crew as well as ours. We align on keeping our integrity. And obviously that starts off with Caesar finding and attracting like-minded individuals, much like what happened with POWSCHE. So I think, as Maurice said, it's going to be a long and fruitful relationship moving forward. Dio and Dev did a really good job in the interview, and they're invited back next Monday for Meme Culture. I believe that's what it's called, where it's going to be kind of the coins that Caesar's crew likes and their leadership speaking to a much larger audience. So we're headliners there. That's really great news, people. And you can also imagine that the audience and listeners of Caesar's Calls share the same values that they do, as well as what POWSCHE believes in. So moving forward, that's the perfect avenue to go through to gain more visibility for POWSCHE, because those are the holders we want. Those who align with our same values, who aren't just going to jump in on a pump and get out at the top. They're going the distance because they can see what's important to make a coin have legs to go the distance. One thing to quickly go over that occurred near the tail end of that interview, there's a couple big, massive buys. And just know, guys, I'm not speaking towards any of you. These buys came from new holders in single buys that were like a ridiculous amount of SOL. And that pumped us from 7 to 12 million at its peak. And as for the reason why they would make big buys like this, one can only speculate on a variety of different answers, but none of them make them look exactly good. Guys, this is not the way to break a coin out. Not that much. That is not good for organic growth of the coin whatsoever. Okay? This should be spread out. How do you think I got my name? So, a good analogy for this Let's say our Canadian friend, Buddy, he's a guy. He's got this girl he's seeing that he's trying to make his girlfriend. Just lost his job, but he's got $10,000 in the bank. Now, do you think it's smarter to blow that $10,000 wad all in a single evening? Well, fuck. You'd probably scare her. Think this guy's going all in. This is weird. I kind of like the chase. I want a guy who's not going to love bomb me. So she jumps out. Well, in the same respect to the coin, just blowing your wad all in, being a one-pump chump, it's very much the same. A big action that is completely out of place is going to elicit another strong reaction back. Buddy spending $10,000 on a single evening with a girl he probably didn't even know that long is going to draw attention. It's going to elicit a huge response back. So it's very much similar, guys. A big buy that's completely out of place, it's not going to do what you want it to do. It's going to initiate sell bots. It's going to initiate whales who want to use that liquidity to jump out. Don't do that. Jupiter has a DCA option. Spread that out. So in our real world example with Buddy, we can all agree that he would want to spread that $10,000 and stretch it as long as he could. That's the smart thing to do. That is going to have a compounding effect. Much like spreading out your buys, it's kind of incognito. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to initiate any bots or whales to use that as exit liquidity. It's a smooth momentum. It's good for the chart. Those buys are actually having an effect, because if you put in a large buy, it's going to be met and encountered with an equal sell, which now has rendered your money ineffective in helping the chart. So we can all agree, you want your money to help POWSCHE, to help strengthen your own investment. What happened here really kind of like cut the momentum that we were building towards. It's really only delaying the inevitable, but I think after that long period of a consolidation wedge, we all could have used that euphoria from seeing that wedge break out today in a sustainable manner. But like I said, it's a coming. It just delayed the inevitable, but I hope we all can learn a little lesson from what happened. And not to act like Buddy, but to keep cool and smooth like a Chad. Chad from the future here, from April 24th, just saying it looks like it only really delayed us one day. All right, folks, let me grab the door for you. We're going to take a ride in my GT3 RS on this journey to dive deeper like no other person has ever before into exactly what makes a coin go the distance. No, it's not as easy as just having a base dev or a good community. This is all I see in the Reddit posts right now. It's a heck of a lot more than that. So do me a favor, shift that gear into first, because my hands are tied up with whatever vice you could see yourself doing, because honestly, rules won't apply with you with that kind of fuck you money. So again, as I've been trying to reiterate time and time again, we must all move away from seeing meme coins as a unique investment vehicle. Like by design, these cryptocurrencies feel so exotic. Exotic, like that one Thai girl you take home from the bar on your solo trip to Thailand. You didn't hear her speak yet. You take her home to the hotel and she says, "I need to tell you something, Chad." Actually, though, this is a true story from one of my closest friends. You know who you are. And it's not Nick, by the way. But once we realize they're really not so exotic, and they're very similar to a company that has tradable stock, just with these hurdles to overcome of anonymity, then it really begins to become a lot more apparent the things that I'm going to dive into. So just do me a favor and keep that at the forefront of your mind, that mindset that when we're looking at these coins, we must see them as a company that has tradable stock. So we're going to tackle these sort of in a chronological order in terms of market cap growth. So starting from the beginning when POWSCHE was at a very low market cap. Now, I do realize that talking about the current events sort of took up most of this podcast, but that's fine because this is going to be a series and it's going to take as long as it needs to be to get all these points across. Starting from the beginning, you need a dev that wants something more. I heard Dev speak about what he was doing prior to POWSCHE, and it just wasn't cutting it. It wasn't fulfilling him. I know he's been in the crypto space 10 years, and he came back desiring having a community that's meaningful, gives people purpose. He knew the state of things. There's rugs everywhere. And no, that's not the name of a local rug store, although I'm sure it exists. Your secret letter is E. And no, it's not just a leader needing that desire for something like this to be a good leader. I was talking to my friends about this, and in reality, how few and far between reasonable, rational people are where you can have a healthy discussion and their ears are open and open to ideas challenging their beliefs and open to changing them if presented something that makes sense. That's who I want to surround myself with. And when you go in the real world, you find out like, holy shit, this is rare. Most people actually don't think for themselves, and they just have an authoritative figure where they just regurgitate what they say. So I can safely say, and I read this in the dev immediately when I saw what he wrote and how he spoke, that he is one of those people. And what company do you think would succeed? A boss that is surrounded by yes men that isn't telling him when his idea is shit? And those relationships where you have a bunch of yes men, it's usually because the leadership rules by fear, and it creates that sort of relationship. It doesn't incentivize anyone to speak up and challenge ideas at all, especially when that paycheck is being dangled in front of them and is on the line, or someone that implores the people he surrounds himself with to challenge his ideas. Because, look, the most obvious answer of what the purpose of a team is to complete a fuck ton more than, an individual. But a good team challenge each other and refines ideas to their best possible form. Now, what does having a leader like that do? It attracts like-minded individuals. So that's where we're going to move on to for the beginning of the next podcast, is like the big bag holders and what happened in those regards. And I know we could only really get through that first topic, but the events of today were important to go over, really explain what happened, and we got all the time in the world as POWSCHE moves towards that moon of 50 billion plus. And your boy, the .2 Soul Giga Chad, is not going anywhere. Along with Nick, we're going to be pumping out a podcast every couple days from here into perpetuity. So until next time, this has been episode 4 of On the CUSP with Chad.